Which was the foolishest? In a little village that stood on a wide plain, where you could see the sun from the moment he rose to the moment he set, there lived two couples side by side. The man who worked under the same master were quite good friends, but the wives were always quarreling, and the subject they quarreled most about was which of the two had the stupid husband. Unlike most women who think that anything that belongs to them must be better than who belongs to anyone else, each thought her husband the more foolish of the two. "You should just see what he does," one said to her neighbor. "He puts on the baby frog upside down, and one day I found him trying to feed her with boiling soup, and her mouth was gilled for days after. Then he picked stones in the road and swung them instead of potatoes. And one day he wanted to go into the garden from the top window, because he declared it was a shorter way than through the door." "This is bad enough, of course," answered the other, "but it is really nothing to what I have to endure every day from my husband. If, when I'm busy, I ask him to go and feed the poultry, he's certain to give them some poisonous stuff instead of their proper food. And when I visit the year's nest, I find them all dead. Once he even took my best bonnet when I had gone away to my sick mother, and when I came back, I found he had given it to the hen to lay her eggs in. And you know yourself that only last week, when I sent him to buy a cask of butter, he returned driving a 150 ducks, which someone had endured to him to take, and not one of them would lay." "Yes, I'm afraid he is trying," replied the first, "but let us put them to the proof and see which of them is the most foolish." So about the time that she expected her husband home from work, she got out her spinning wheel and sat busily turning it, taking care not even to look up from her work when the man came in. For some minutes he stood with his mouth open, watching her, and she remained silent. He said at last, "Have you gone, my wife, that you sit spinning without anything on the wheel?" "You may think that there is nothing on it," answered she, "but I can assure you that there is a large skein of wool so fine that nobody can see it, which will be woven into a coat for you." "Dear me," he replied, "what a clever wife I've got. If you had not told me, I should never have known that there was any wool on the wheel at all. But now I really do seem to see something." The woman smiled and was silent, and after spinning busily for an hour more, she got up from her scoop and began to weave as fast as she could. At last she got up and said to her husband, "I'm too tired to finish this tonight, so I shall go to bed, and tomorrow I shall only have the cutting and stitching to do." So the next morning, she got up early, and after she had cleaned her house and fed her chickens and put everything in its place again, she bent over the kitchen table, and the sounds of her big scissors might be heard, snip, snap, as far as the garden. Her husband could not say anything to snip at, but then he was so stupid that was not surprising. After the cutting came the sewing. The woman pat and pinned and fixed and joined, and then, turning to the man, she said, "Now it's ready for you to try on." And she made him take off his coat and stand up in front of her, and once more she pat and pinned and fixed and joined, and was very careful in smoothing out every wrinkle. "It does not fit very well," observed the man at last, when he had borne off this patiently for a long time. "This is because it's so fine," answered she. "You don't want it to be as thick as the rough clothes you wear every day." He did, but was ashamed to say so, and only answered Well, I'm sure it must be beautiful, since you say so, and I'm sure he's smarter than anyone in the whole village. What a splendid coat! They will exclaim when they see me. But it's not everybody who has a wife as clever as mine. Meanwhile, the other wife was not idle. As soon as her husband entered, she looked at him with such look of terror that the poor man was frightened. "Why do you stare at me so? Is there anything the matter?" asked he. "Oh, go to bed at once," she cried. "You must be very ill indeed to look like that." The man was rather surprised at first, as he felt particularly well that evening. But the moment his wife spoke, he became quite certain that he had something dreadful the matter with him, and grew quite pale. "I dare say it would be the best place for me," he answered, trembling, and he suffered his wife to take him upstairs and to help him off with his clothes. "If you sleep well during the night, there may be a chance for you," said she, shaking her head, as she tugged him warmly. "But if not," and of course the poor man never closed an eye till the sun rose. "How do you feel this morning?" asked the woman, coming in tiptoe when her housework was finished. "Oh, bad, very bad indeed," answered he. "I have not slept for a moment. Can you think of nothing to make me better?" "I will try everything that is possible," said the wife, who did not in the least wish her husband to die, but was determined to show that he was more foolish than the other man. "I will get some dry herbs and make you a drink, but I'm very much afraid that it is too late. Why did you not tell me before?" "I thought perhaps the pain would go off in a day or two, and besides, I did not want to make you unhappy," answered the man, who was by this time quite sure he had been suffering tortures and had borne them like a hero. "Of course, if I had any idea how ill I really was, I should have spoken at once." Well, I will see what can be done," said the wife, "but talking is not good for you. Lie still and keep yourself warm." All the day, the man lay in bed, and whenever his wife entered the room and asked him with a shake of the heart how he felt, he always replied that he was getting rose. At last, in the evening, she burst into tears, and when he inquired what was the matter, she sobbed out, "Oh, my poor, poor husband, are you really dead? I must go tomorrow and order your coffin." Now, the man heard this. A cold shiver ran through his body, and all at once he knew that he was as well as he had never been in his life. "Oh, no, no," he cried. "I feel quite recovered. Indeed, I think I should go out to walk." "You will do no such thing," replied his wife. "Just keep quiet. Before the sunrise, you will be a dead man." The man was very frightened at her words, and lay absolutely still while the undertaker came and measured him for his coffin, and his wife gave orders to the grave digger about his grave. That evening the coffin was sent home, and in the morning at 9 o'clock, the woman put in on a long flannel garment and called to the undertaker man to fasten down the lid and carry him to the grave where all their friends were waiting for them. Just as the body was being placed in the ground, the other woman's husband came running up dressed, well, as far as anyone could see, in no clothes at all. Everybody burst into shouts of laughter at the sight of him, and the man laid down the coffin and laughed too, till the sides nearly split. The bad man was so astonished at the behavior that he peeped out of a little window in the side of the coffin and cried out, "I should have laughed as loudly as any of you, if I were not a dead man." When they heard the voice coming from the coffin, the other people suddenly stopped laughing and stood as if they had been turned into stone. Then they rushed with one accord to the coffin and lifted the lid so that the man could step out and amongst them. "Were you really not dead after all?" asked they. "And if not, why did you let yourself be buried?" At this, the wife both confessed that they had each wished to prove that her husband was stupid than the other. But the villagers declared that they could not decide which was the most foolish, the man who allowed himself to be persuaded that he was wearing fine clothes when he was dressed in nothing, or the man who let himself be buried when he was alive and well. So the women quarreled just as much as they did before, and no one ever knew whose husband was the most foolish. I hope you all enjoy listening to this story. May you sleep peacefully at night while listening to this. Have a good night.